Welcome to Health in Focus, the podcast where we zoom in on critical health issues one episode at a time. I'm Zoe Graham, your host, and as you all know, I'm a neurologist, a doctor who specializes in the brain, spinal cord, muscles, and nerves. I am here to guide you through the stories, science, and solutions shaping our understanding of health and wellness. Today, we're turning the spotlight to Parkinson's disease, a condition that affects millions worldwide. We'll explore the science behind it, how it impacts those living with the disease, and the incredible progress being made in treatment in terms of exercise. Whether you're here as someone living with this condition, a caregiver, or simply curious about this topic, you're in the right place. So grab a cup of coffee and let's bring health into focus together. Now, this episode will be a recording so that it can be easily listened to wherever you are with no need to have your eyes on your device, so let's dive in. So I'm here today with a good friend of mine named Paige, a 40-year-old woman who has just been recently diagnosed with early onset Parkinson's disease and is looking to gain some knowledge on the disease, including why and how she can use exercise as a way to improve her overall well-being with PD.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
No problem. Can you tell our listeners a bit about the symptoms you've been experiencing leading up to your official diagnosis?
Yeah, so I started having tremors in my hands more and more often, and I found it weird because it would be when I was relaxing on the couch. Stiffness when I would walk was a big one too, so I decided to see a medical professional, and it turns out I have early onset Parkinson's disease. It's really taken a mental toll on me, so I really just want to gain the knowledge on how to slow progression and mitigate symptoms.
Well, I'm so sorry to hear that, but you're in the right place. I'm going to start off by explaining what Parkinson's disease is, just so our audience has some context, and this may even help you if you don't know this already. So, according to the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, Parkinson's disease is a progressive neurodegenerative disorder of the brain that causes problems with movement. Parkinson's causes dopaminergic neurons in the base of the brain called the substantia nigra to become weak, damaged, and eventually die.
What is the importance of dopamine in this disease?
Since dopamine is an important chemical messenger that allows our bodies to perform intentional movements smoothly, the loss of these dopamine-producing cells causes symptoms such as stiffness, tremors, poor balance, and problems with overall movement. And the more that the disease progresses, individuals will have more trouble completing simple daily tasks and even have a hard time walking and talking.
Is it possible that my dopamine-producing neurons have been diminishing long before my diagnosis?
Yeah, so by the time most people begin to show symptoms of Parkinson's disease, there's a good chance that they've already lost up to 60 to 80% of their dopaminergic neurons in the substantia nigra. A colleague of mine, Sewell Tinez, told me that by the time the patients clinically manifest the typical motor symptoms of Parkinson's, you can assume that the neurodegenerative process actually started much earlier and maybe even like a decade or two.
Okay, so this may have been happening since I was young, in 30 or even 20. Can you tell me more about the alpha-synuclein?
Deposits of alpha-synuclein, known as Lewy bodies, are what is found in the affected brain cells of those with the disease. And although researchers are unaware of the exact reason for this yet, some studies have concluded that this is potentially due to the body's failure of protein disposal in cells, causing harmful levels of this protein to build up and cause death of the cell. According to Yale School of Medicine, the misfolding of this naturally occurring alpha-synuclein protein causes neurogenesis by accumulating in the neurons and therefore damaging them. Age is one of the main risk factors for Parkinson's disease, and the average of those with diagnosed Parkinson's is early to mid-60s, but significant symptoms can arise before the age of 50.
Wow, that's so helpful. I really understand what is happening in my body much better. I was doing my own research, and there seems to be a lot of benefits from exercise in patients with PD. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, there is so much research linking exercise to improve symptoms of Parkinson's disease, and I'll share some that I believe are super important.
Yeah, please do.
So the first study I'll talk about was actually published earlier this year by the Yale School of Medicine, and it suggests that there are brain protective factors that are induced by high-intensity exercise that have the potential to slow down and even reverse neurodegeneration associated with Parkinson's disease. The study involved 10 patients and showed that high-intensity aerobic exercise protected dopamine-producing neurons from cell degeneration and death. And after 6 months of high-intensity aerobic exercise, these 10 individuals showed that this style of exercise caused the dopaminergic neurons to become healthier and create stronger signals. So I'll get into a little bit of how they conducted this study. So high intensity exercise where patients reach 80 to 85% of their maximum heart rate in regards to their age 3 times a week over a course of 6 months was their workout regimen or exercise regimen, and this was correlated to less severe motor dysfunction related symptoms of the disease. The researchers recruited patients who had Parkinson's disease for approximately 4 years or less and therefore had not lost a significant amount of dopamine producing neurons yet. After a 2-week trial where the patients tested out the exercises and see if they could continue them for the rest of the study, they received their first round of MRI and PET scans. So the point of these scans were so the results could be compared to after the 6 months of exercise. So the MRI scan measured how much neuromelanin was in the substantia nigra prior. So neuromelanin is found in dopamine-producing neurons, and it shows as a dark pigment on the MRI. The second scan, which is the PET scan, was used to measure dopamine transporter availability, also known as DAT, which is an essential protein for the maintenance of proper dopamine levels in the neurons. Overall, 10 out of the 13 patients or participants completed the study, and they used high-intensity exercise program designed by Michelle Hespeler, who is the founder of Beat Parkinson's Today. And in order to increase heart rate in the participants and keep it up, the workout classes involved high-intensity functional intervals. So the MRI and PET scans were redone after 6 months of this program, and the key findings were pretty remarkable. So the MRI showed increases in neuromelanin in the substantia nigra, indicating that there's an increase in dopamine-producing neurons. The PET scan showed increased DAT, therefore an increase in the protein that maintains proper dopamine levels in the neurons. Exercise also appears to enhance the functionality and signaling capacity of remaining dopaminergic neurons. Therefore, the study suggests that high-intensity exercise can slow down neurodegenerative processes while also allowing natural dopamine system to increase in health. And this highlights the importance of the integration of exercise programs in slowing Parkinson's prevention and progression.
Wow, that is pretty remarkable. Can you explain more about Parkinson's exercise treatment program, Beat Parkinson's Today?
Of course. In Connecticut, Michelle Hespeler is the founder of Beat Parkinson's Today, a research-based nonprofit exercise program that offers online and in-person classes throughout the state. So this is a nonprofit program, so it's fully free to the public who needs it, designed by someone with Parkinson's for those with Parkinson's. If you don't live where they do in-person classes, you can do their online programs, and the classes focus on intense exercise through boxing and functional interval training, which is personalized for each individual, and the classes also aim to provide emotional and social support.
I just pulled up their website and it says that Beat PD Today is a program that will improve the quality of life of people with Parkinson's by performing exercises that are functional to everyday living. Interval training in boxing is a large part of the program and has shown to improve symptoms in Parkinson's and slow the progression of the disease. It says here that boxing helps balance, explosiveness, strength, mental strength, and more, beneficial in slowing the progression of the disease. They also mention that participants will feel better both emotionally and physically. Is there any other evidence on how exercise is beneficial?
Yeah, of course. So another study examined the long-term effects of regular physical activity and exercise habits on PD over time. The results concluded that high regular physical activity levels were related to slower deterioration in several clinical aspects of the patients with PD, but it was only when it was maintained over time. This particular study had an added advantage over other studies that I mentioned, previously being only a 6-month intervention period, this one was a lot longer. So the researchers found improvements in motor functions such as posterior stability, so how the body remains stable while moving, and gait function. So gait function is how we maintain our balance and posture when walking, and this involves our foot placements on the ground. Overall, they found that with moderate to vigorous exercise, both of these were improved. So the important message of this study is that maintaining physical activity over time, rather than just engaging in high levels of physical activity at the onset, was crucial for a better clinical course in PD patients. Thus, the study suggests that sustained exercise is the key to long-term clinical improvements.
So I guess I really do need to get on an exercise program now to see long-term benefits. One question though, what about those who have very progressive symptoms and find it hard to exercise? And here I'm referring to those in their 60s who haven't exercised much and find it hard to start at this point given the tremors and stiffness they experience. Is there anything else they can do?
According to the Parkinson's Foundation, there are challenges to exercising in those with late stages of PD, such as poor balance due to loss of joint flexibility and decreased muscle strength, affecting walking ability or even the ability to stand up. So although the treadmill and traditional exercise bikes are recommended by the Parkinson's Foundation, not all patients may be able to use these as they may pose a risk to their safety. There is a stationary exercise bike designed called the TheraCycle, actually, and it provides exercise options for those who cannot use traditional exercise equipment. The bike uses a unique aspect of force exercise therapy, where the TheraCycle's unique motor assists PD patients to exercise at a rate and duration that's greater than what they can do on their own. This machine is also equipped with handles for safety. The TheraCycle increases one's heart rate with highly repetitive movements and is proven to stimulate neuroplasticity in the brain for improved motor function and mobility. Although the stationary bike is $5,800, so for some it may be out of their price range, but it's definitely a great investment for those who are finding it difficult to perform traditional exercises in the late stages of their PD diagnosis.
Speaking of expensive, is there any other financial burdens associated with having Parkinson's disease?
Great question. So according to Parkinson's Canada, 53% of those with Parkinson's had to stop working or retire earlier than planned. Furthermore, 72% of working care partners had to alter their jobs, including switching to part-time, taking less demanding roles, or even retiring. In 2024, the economic impact of Parkinson's disease amounts to $3.3 billion annually, and this encompasses costs for individuals with the condition, their care partners, and the healthcare system. This figure is projected to increase to $4.4 billion per year by 2034. And nearly 90% of the total costs associated with Parkinson's amounts to $2.9 billion, and this is shouldered by individuals living with the condition and their care partners. Parkinson's Canada provided an annual average out-of-pocket expenses breakdown for either the care partners or the PD patient themselves, and I'll go through them all. So care homes averaged $43,416, and this is annually, by the way. Nurses and support workers, $10,800. Home modifications, $2,612. Home assistance, $2,242. Medical equipment was $1,628. And medications, so prescription and supplements, were $1,479, which is a significant amount of money every year for this disease.
That's great information. Definitely a big financial burden associated with this disease. I definitely need to start making financial arrangements for the future. Lately, since being diagnosed, I am noticing depressive symptoms and cognitive decline. Can physical activity relieve the depressive symptoms associated with Parkinson's disease?
Yeah, physical activity has been proven to be a beneficial strategy for managing Parkinson's disease, helping to delay or reverse physical decline and reduce depression. So specifically, physical activity alleviates depression by increasing beta endorphin release, enhancing brain neurotransmitter availability, so this includes serotonin, dopamine, and neuroadrenaline, It boosts brain-derived neurotrophic factors, improves self-esteem, self-evaluation, and provides a sense of achievement. And lastly, it promotes social interaction during group activities, which positively influences mood, and overall it reduces depressive symptoms, improves self-esteem, and enhances your quality of life. In some studies reviewed by a group of researchers, it was shown that physical activity interventions lasting 3 to 12 months reduced depressive symptoms in older adults, but a minimum of 12 weeks was required for significant effects in PD patients. So it's important that you are consistent with your exercise regime. Furthermore, a meta-analysis found that physical exercise is a great way to alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety found in patients with PD. They found that engaging in exercise can shape self-perception, boost confidence, foster self-empowerment, and enhance self-efficiency, resulting in behavioral changes that together promote improvements in mental health outcomes. Exercise specifically initiates a series of physiological processes leading to the release of various hormonal factors into the bloodstream, such as anti-inflammatory and antioxidant compounds, growth factors, neurotransmitters, hormones, and more. These mechanisms as a whole promote neurogenesis and neuroplasticity and contribute to the reduction of physiological symptoms associated with PD. This meta-analysis mentions that aerobic, mind-body, and resistance exercises are particularly effective for reducing depressive symptoms, while mind-body and resistant exercises show benefits for specifically anxiety. Overall, the specific exercise interventions that this meta-analysis recommends in terms of cognitive benefits for PD typically involves 2 to 5 sessions per week of aerobic exercise for 30 to 60 minutes over 5 to 16 weeks, and this should be performed at 40 to 80% of the reserve heart rate. They also recommend resistance training, and this should be conducted twice weekly for 30 to 40 minutes over 20 to 24 weeks. And lastly, the mind-body exercises performed 1 to 5 times weekly for 45 to 120 minutes for over 8 to 12 weeks was very beneficial. Overall, structured physical exercise, whether as a standalone or an adjunctive strategy, is recommended to manage depression and anxiety symptoms in patients with PD effectively. So when used by itself or with a medication, these benefits extend just beyond the management of motor symptoms.
This information is extremely helpful, Zoe. I'm going to make sure I stick to a consistent, high-intensity exercise routine tailored to the information you have provided to mitigate and slow the symptoms of my disease and improve my overall mood and quality of life.
Thanks, Paige, for coming on Health in Focus. And just remember, the exercise goes beyond symptomatic relief, potentially modifying disease progression at the neuronal level. High-intensity exercise is accessible, cost-effective, and safe, and offers a promising avenue for managing and potentially reversing neurodegeneration in patients with Parkinson's disease. I hope you have a great rest of your day. All right, so that concludes the podcast for this week. And just remember, you can find the links to all the studies I talked about in this podcast in the link below. Until next time, take care, stay curious, and keep health in focus.